Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to the channel. Today is the day before the Battlefield 6 release. There's a lot of videos going up at the moment from all kinds of creators. I don't have any gameplay for you, but I did want to go over all of the day one patch notes in this video because there are a lot of big changes coming to the game if you haven't played, of course, since the open beta, like big nerfs to the movement, weapon changes, vehicle handling changes, which I know is like something that we've all been asking for. We've also got some review scores to go over and stuff like that. So as always, if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that sub button to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and thank you so much for the support, really appreciated. Okay, so first I wanted to just go over some of the preliminary review scores. Now, bear in mind, these are only from critics. Of course, we haven't gotten our hands on the game yet, right? So these are, gaming websites and magazines and whatnot. But it looks here, and this has been compiled by Battlefield Bulletin, that the game is getting basically an 80 out of 100 or an 8 out of 10 at the bare minimum, and Metacritic has it scored at 83%. Of course, again, these are not like the public sort of votes, if you will, or the public's opinion. So, a lot of these same journalistic spaces gave Battlefield 2042 very good review scores as well. So, read into that what you will. But I do think, for what it's worth, that Battlefield 6 is going to be a banger. Okay, with that said, let's just jump into the patch notes here. And they are going to be quite lengthy, so I would recommend grabbing yourself a drink, sit back, make yourselves comfortable, because there's going to be a lot to go over. So let's just begin here. So this is update patch 1.0.1, and this is available, I believe, right now. So if you haven't preloaded this one after the initial preload, I would recommend going out and doing that, just so you're ready to play the game when it drops tomorrow on the 10th. So they say Battlefield 6 launches with patch 1.0.1.0, delivering a wide range of updates and improvements across the game made since the open beta weekends. This release reflects player feedback from the beta and ongoing playtesting from Battlefield Labs, alongside our continued development efforts, addressing bugs, refining balance, and enhancing clarity throughout the entire experience. So first of all here, major updates. So these are going to be like the big things. Movement is refined with reduced slide to jump momentum, lowered jump height, and increased inaccuracy when firing while airborne or sliding. So of course we've heard about these changes, and they've now come to fruition in the main release build here for the game. Weapon handling has been rebalanced through general recoil tuning and adjustments to ensure more consistent gunplay. So again, in the beta, the recoil of a lot of weapons was really quite out of whack. On some of them it was really difficult, some of them you could turn them into laser beams, and so they've rebalanced all of the guns through the game. So if you had a weapon that you thought was maybe the best one, that may not be the case anymore. Now, rush and breakthrough layouts have been revised to deliver a better balance between attackers and defenders. Any of you who played rush or indeed breakthrough will know that in the beta it was really quite lacking, especially for the attacking side, so good to hear that they've done that there. Maps improve with better traversal, lighting adjustments, and overall performance upgrades. UI and HUD have received a range of polish improvements for clearer prompts, smoother navigation, and more accurate displays. Settings and controls expanded with improvements across multiple areas, so we will be going over all of the settings in this game in a separate video for that one. Audio has also been overhauled game-wide with clearer pings, refined weapon and vehicle sounds, and fixes for missing or delayed effects. No mention here of improved footstep audio, though. That was, I would say, the only thing that I really had a bit of a gripe with on the audio side of things with BO6. Netcode has been optimized as well to reduce desync, fast time to death, and instances of invisible damage. So if those were things that affected you in the beta, those should now be resolved, or at least better. So here is the actual changelog then, and we start off with the player section. So first off, they reduce the speed that can be carried from sliding into jumping, lowering momentum, especially horizontal momentum. They've increased the penalty for repeated jumps and slightly lowered the jump height, increased weapon inaccuracy when firing while jumping or sliding. So we've all heard about those changes, I think, at the moment. Adjusted parachute physics reduced the initial acceleration when deploying. Again, that was something in the beta that seemed just really insane. You could jump from a 10-meter height, open your parachute, and almost get halfway across the map. It was way too good. So they've definitely made this change there to address that. They have fixed an issue where weapon dispersion could spike far higher than intended, fixed an issue where a takedown could launch the victim into the air. I definitely saw that one in the beta a few times there as well. They've also fixed one where players could enter third-person camera while alive. Yep, and that one was all over Reddit. And then another one here where players could remain stuck in a down state after being revived with defibs following a headshot. Smoother transition when aiming down sights from hipfire for better target acquisition. They fixed an issue where landing animations played after very short drops or when climbing objects. Here is another important parachute one. Fixed an issue where too much momentum was lost when cutting a parachute. So that again just sort of feeds into those parachuting mechanics. Drag and revive can now be cancelled more quickly for better responsiveness. So if you felt it was like a little bit, laggy between like reviving somebody and then cancelling it and actually managing to return fire, that should be somewhat easier now. They've updated parachute, skydiving animations and physics for more fluid movement. That will undoubtedly tie into the Battle Royale there as well. They fixed an issue where fall and landing speed penalties triggered after very short drops or vaults. Fixed an issue when firing was blocked too long after going prone from sprinting or combat diving. As you can see, a lot of these things here are just sort of issues that were fixed in the game. They're not necessarily all balancing things. Here they've reduced the camera movement when exiting a slide. So that's actually, I suppose that's a little bit of a buff really to movement inadvertently, isn't it? There have been various improvements and bug fixes to melee attack and takedown animations, and the same here again for drag and revive animations, and then improved vault detection for more reliable movement over obstacles. That one is actually very important because a lot of the times it felt like you could vault over an object, or you should be able to vault over an object, but then you couldn't manage to like pull yourself up onto the wall. So hopefully maybe the height of those has been increased somewhat. Now we get into the vehicle section, and this has seen a lot of changes here because the vehicles were they were like okay in the beta, but in my opinion at least, they really needed a lot of work. So helicopters have been given more power and responsiveness, making them easier to fly, adjust mid-flight, and survive attack runs, including better chances to dodge incoming RPGs. They've increased the tank turret speed, so that's the turn speed of the tank turrets there. Vehicle smoke countermeasures are now more effective at braking and spotting lock-ons. They've improved the death camera experience for air vehicles as well, adjusted vehicle mix for hit indicators, and updated the explosion kill indicator feedback against infantry. Vehicle aiming behavior, so with mouse and gamepads, is now more closely matched to soldier aiming. So if you had your sensitivity set for vehicles, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board with that one. They have made some changes here. Vehicle sensitivity and aiming options now use the same default ranges and values as soldier controls for consistency. Okay, that's actually a lot better because I was putting my aircraft sensitivity and my heli sensitivity up to 100, which felt way too much and it barely made a difference. So I think that change there is now going to make it much more consistent to what you have for your soldier sensitivities. Navigation terrain avoidance has been enabled for surface-to-air missiles. So does that mean they're going to navigate a little bit better around the terrain? Like if you're in a jet and you're trying to line of sight a missile? Not exactly sure how that was going to work, but I suppose we will find out soon enough. They have fixed an issue where a vehicle could keep showing a lock-on warning for several seconds after being hit by an MBT law. Yeah, I was certainly affected by that bug quite a lot. Added a visible boost bar for ground vehicles that have boost. They fixed an issue with a Leopard wreck collision, so players can now climb it from behind, improve how tank tracks and vehicle wheels interact with destructible objects for more realistic collisions, and they've reduced the bloom effect on jet bombs, so for the Apache here, for clearer visibility. So there's actually apparently no changes here to the maneuverability of jets, but I can tell you from playing labs that they've definitely changed some stuff for the jets. Like, they do not feel the same to fly anymore, so why that isn't here in the patch notes? This one just mentions the helicopters. I don't know. I couldn't tell you guys. Okay, on to the gadgets section. So they fixed an issue where some gadgets could unequip unexpectedly when jumping. Same here for the rocket launcher backblast that dealt apparently too much damage to the infantry. So what they're talking about here is if you fire, let's say, an RPG, there will be a backblast that actually damages infantry behind you, and apparently that one was a little bit too good. Rocket launcher explosions now correctly check for walls and cover before applying damage. So what is that going to result in? Maybe more damage on infantry, maybe less. Removed arming time on rockets, allowing players to fire at floors and ceilings indoors to open up destruction. So the arming time is the time that it takes before the munition is armed. It has to fly a certain distance, and they've remove that now. So that will allow you to basically fire at floors and ceilings when you're indoors, and they will blow up. So I think that thing in the beta where you could like fire an RPG into the ground at point blank range and it wouldn't explode, it probably will explode now. So just be aware of that. The thermobaric grenade concussive effect has been reduced from 2.5 seconds to 1 second. So that is the assault special grenade launcher there, which would make you basically move like a snail, super, super slow. It also set you on fire, so I think it's still going to set you on fire and do burn damage and make you move like a snail, but now it's only going to last for 1 second instead of 2.5. So good change on that one. Thermal scopes have been improved. Soldiers now appear colder when prone or dying and hotter when sprinting. They've also fixed an issue where a rocket launcher collision could cause double damage to vehicles. Okay, that one really explains a lot. How many times in the beta did you get hit with a vehicle with a rocket launcher and almost like one tap? Like I would get down to 20% health from 100, you know, like that. And this bug here must have been the problem. Let's see, what else have we got here? These are all kind of pretty self-explanatory, just kind of fixing some bugs. The repair tool now overheats slightly faster to prevent vehicles from becoming too durable. So repairing on vehicles kind of seen a nerf now. How much faster they're going to overheat, that remains to be seen, of course. Repair tool and defibrillators can now damage enemy gadgets as well. The defib damage reduced on both quick zaps and charged zaps. So that is like if you're trying to kill an enemy with the defibs, it's not going to do as much damage, but I thought they kind of just like one-shot you either way. So does that mean they're not going to one-shot you anymore? The M320A1 HE vehicle damage has been tweaked. So which way has it been tweaked? Does it do more damage? Does it do less damage? Again, we don't really know that one yet. The assault ladder ramp deployment angle has been increased to 54 degrees. So it was 45 degrees. Now it's up to 54, which is actually really good. I have tried the assault ladder gadget, and I can tell you guys, it's actually really, really good. It's really, really handy. It may seem like not the best gadget in the game, but try it out tomorrow. You'll be impressed. Okay, they've improved the throwing arc of the AT mine. It now inherits the speed of the soldier throwing it and better aligns to the surface it lands on. And then moving down here, we actually have some specific changes for some of the launchers in the game. So for the RPG here, they've slightly adjusted the sight and the reticle for better aiming, increased dispersion when aiming down sights to discourage quick scoping, and they've fixed projectiles hitting nearby cover incorrectly when aimed just above it. So that's definitely something I ran into there in the beta as well. You'd be like, you know, peeking out from cover, aiming your RPG at a tank, and then it would just hit like the wall in front of you, even though you aimed above it. So that should be addressed now. As for the MBT law, this is the one that you can fire like above vehicles and it kind of locks on and does like a little top-down attack. It is now the default rocket launcher for the engineer class. Missiles now follow a more accurate trajectory, now uses auto-guided missiles, so that's what I was talking about there, can no longer be hip-fired, sight and reticle updated for a clearer aiming experience, and the blast damage now correctly applies to vehicles. Then we have the MAS 148 Glaive. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the Javelin. So missile trajectory updated to better reflect real-world behavior. 2 zoom levels have now been introduced. You can now lock onto stationary weapons and vehicles, so AAs, TOWs, heavy MGs. So if there's a soldier on there, you'll be able to blast them with your Javelin. Lock-on distance has been changed and now cannot lock onto targets closer than 40 meters. They've fixed some clipping and reticle issues in the scope. Blast damage now correctly applies to vehicles. Hipfire crosshair no longer appears when aiming down sights. LEDs now correctly show lock progress, thermal setting, and zoom level, and the field of view now transitions more smoothly when zooming. So good changes there. Then we've got the SLM-93A Spire. I actually don't know which launcher this is. I didn't play too much Engineer in the beta. I'm like, was this even in the beta? So I'm not sure which one this actually applies to. I think this is the AA launcher though. I think it's the ground to air launcher. And it says gadget can no longer lock onto air vehicles below radar level. Okay, it definitely must be the manpads, yeah, that makes sense. Fixed an issue where missiles sometimes did not deal damage. So in the beta, you would get locked on even though you were under radar, and apparently that is no longer a thing, which is interesting, because under radar in past games has only affected vehicle AA weapons, right? It hasn't affected the manpads that the infantry are carrying, but now apparently it is. So if you're under radar in a vehicle, you will just not be able to get locked on in Battlefield 6, period. So here we have some interesting changes for the deploy beacon. Now allows only one spawn per player, so 4 per squad total before it self-destructs. And basically what that means is that like the assault player, which of course now gets the deploy beacon, is like those are not going to be quite as effective as they were before. And again, I think it's really to combat it so you don't have tons and tons of deploy beacons everywhere, with a lot of people of course playing as assault. Enemy deploy beacons now display an icon on the minimap when pinged, and can now be deployed at a soldier's feet if the original location is blocked. Now this one is quite interesting here. The XFGM60 Recon Drone, it now flies faster when carrying C4, but the battery drains faster as a trade-off. So they obviously want to have C4 drones in the game. They want that to be a mechanic. They want it to be an option that you have in your toolkit there, but it is going to come at a trade-off. You know, the battery is going to drain a lot faster, and it's going to essentially, you know, run out of juice and sort of get out of range quicker. It no longer receives unwanted force when carrying C4, making flight smoother, movement improved for a more realistic feel, and the drone now self-destructs after 3 seconds when flown out of bounds. Okay, here we have the detailed weapon changes. So first of all, general recoil adjustments across multiple weapons. Weapon accuracy has been adjusted to be more stable when aiming down sights while moving, but less accurate when firing mid-jump. Numerous weapon attachments have been updated to appear correctly. They've increased bullet spread when firing automatic weapons while aiming down sights as well. The M87A1 shotgun now requires more pellets to secure a kill, rewarding more accurate hits. So of course this is the shotgun in the beta that was wildly overpowered. They've fixed an issue where the crosshair appeared larger than the actual bullet spread when using shotguns with slug ammunition. For bolt-action rifles, the first shot boost now applies to every fired shot. The first shot boost? What is that? Is there a first shot boost for bolt-action rifles? I've heard of the first shot multiplier, but I didn't know that was a thing. And then they've added a glow to a variety of reticles and improved visibility of reticles. So again, that was another big critique for the beta, that people just couldn't really see the reticles, like the red dots and whatnot. They weren't, well, they didn't glow enough, and it seems that they've addressed that now. On to maps and modes. So all rush layouts have been updated based on feedback from the open beta. Several breakthrough layouts have been updated based on feedback from the open beta here as well, and I think in both of these game modes it's fair to say that they didn't really play that well. I would say actually that Rush, for me at least, I thought that it played better than Breakthrough did, but Breakthrough in general, I feel like the attacker side had a lot of problems, so it's good to hear that they've addressed that. Is it going to be good? You know, they may have changed it, but is it actually going to be good? I suppose we'll all find out tomorrow. They fixed spawn killing issues on a Siege of Cairo, fixed multiple exploits on Siege of Cairo and Iberian Offensive that allowed players to reach unintended areas. And of course, what they're referring to here is the rooftop camping, the glitching that would allow you to get up onto the roof areas that you're not supposed to be at on those maps. They've improved anti-air balance on Liberation Peak. Again, I don't really like it when they use the word improve. Like, what does that mean? They've nerfed the anti-air, they've buffed the anti-air. Like, what does that even mean? No idea. General performance improvements to Operation Firestorm, improved player traversal across Operation Firestorm, adjusted lighting on Operation Firestorm to make indoor areas and certain assets brighter where they were previously too dark. A lot of rooms would be very dark on that map. Spawn animations on Firestorm improved across multiple game modes and areas to remove bounce effects. And respawning as squad deathmatch is now a one-button action, simplifying the process compared to the two-step option in the beta. Now, for the UI and the HUD changes here, like there are so many of these that I'm not going to go over each and every one in detail. So if you guys want to like pause the video, I'll also link this down in the description. You guys can take a look at them. But most of these changes here are like, you know, basically just like fixes to the UI, shifting things around. There are a couple of interesting things here. So they've updated of the rank visuals and the iconography for those. They've improved overall class identity, so that's your signature gadget, your weapon proficiency traits, etc. So things are, you know, a little bit more readable. C4, the UI now actually shows how many charges that you've placed and the distance to your 3 closest charges. So what they're talking about here is like the actual C4 detonator that's in your hand. It was supposed to show you how far each of the charges were from you, and now it will. So that's kind of cool. Other than that, like, yeah, a lot of them are just kind of small fixes. If you guys go and look at the actual, you know, in-game UI, it's not really changed massively. It pretty much looks like the same thing. So if you were hoping for like an entire overhaul, we're not going to be getting that for the game tomorrow. As for the settings changes here, it's much the same thing. A lot of these things are very, very minor, just not really worth mentioning. I would say the only thing that is worth mentioning here, really, for me, is they've added a new option to adjust minimap size from small, medium, and large. So that is appreciated. Outside of that, there's nothing really too crazy here. For Portal, they've removed the crossplay option from server hosting. I don't know why they've done that. They fixed an issue where AI soldiers in Portal were not affected by weapon and loadout restriction rules. And then we come to the audio section. Now, obviously, audio is going to be quite difficult to read about. It's really something that you have to hear. So I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to like mean a lot here, but let's see if there's anything actually worthwhile reading. And I would say actually there's nothing really too crazy here. Again, I was hoping to see some changes to the footstep audio, but it seems like a lot of the other things in the game, like certain weapons and vehicle audio especially, have received some slight tweaks. So maybe if those things are changed, maybe the footstep audio will sort of come into its own a little bit more and come slightly forward, and you'll be able to hear that over some of the other sounds in the game. I would say whatever mix of audio you were using before, this one here, the War Tapes VAL, or Very Aggressive Listening, this has seen a lot of changes, as you can see here. So if you didn't like that one, maybe give it a try. If you were using that one like I was for much of the beta, I'm going to be seeing what that sounds like now as well. And finally, we come to the network section. So they've improved the netcode to reduce cases where time to death felt too fast, where it felt like you kind of just got one-tapped by guns. Fixed an issue where players could take damage without being visibly shot. Fixed an issue where health values were not updating correctly. Improved the netcode to reduce cases of dying after reaching cover. Dying behind walls, of course, a classic Battlefield problem. And then they fixed a netcode issue where damage feedback was delayed or only appearing after respawning. So there you have it, guys. Those are all of the day one patch notes. I would recommend going and downloading this patch ASAP. It depends on your internet connection, of course, how stressful that's going to be for you, but the game comes out tomorrow, so you do want to make sure that you're ready. I think all in all, we've seen some good changes here. Of course, the main ones, I would say, being to the weapons, the movement for the soldier here, they've kind of reined that in a little bit, and then some improvements for the vehicle movement and those mechanics. Nothing listed for the jet there, but I feel confident in telling you guys that there have been improvements made, even though for whatever reason they haven't actually listed them specifically in the patch notes. I can understand that. I think the patch notes were quite long, so they probably missed some stuff out, even though I would consider that to be like one of the bigger things. But so far, good job. I hope they are going to, be quick getting these patches out that fix issues with the game. They're not going to spend too long, sitting back and just looking at the battlefield and having crazy overpowered weapons and things like that. And they're going to actually act on hopefully like a bi-weekly cadence and step in and make the right changes. I will give DICE the benefit of the doubt that they have been actually pretty good with that in Battlefield 2042, even though sometimes the patches take a little bit longer than I would like. However, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of this video, but you know what that means? The next time we see each other, it's going to be Battlefield 6 time, man. I am going to be streaming the game tomorrow. As soon as it goes live, I'll be both here on YouTube as well as on Twitch, and on the Twitch side, there will be drops active there. So if you want to get your cosmetics, you will be able to get those by watching my channel. If you guys just want to go and play the game for yourselves and you don't want to watch anybody, including myself, I totally understand that, but hopefully we'll catch up at some point this weekend, be able to have a bit of a chit chat about what we all feel about the game. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and I'll see you tomorrow, or hopefully this weekend. Have a good one, guys.